Okay, so hi. If you are in my class, hey guys. If you're in another class, hey guys. I wanted to do a run through of lab number 3 to talk about how we might want to develop that. And yeah, so let's go. So I'm already here. I'm in this directory. Nothing's here in my lab 3 directory, and we'll take a look at the actual lab in a second. But even before the lab, I want to do some prep work. So I'm going to open up Emacs, my editor of choice, and let's just make this a nice big window. Let's come over to here. Yeah, it should be a big enough font. And my class, we use GitHub for this, but even if you don't, it's a good idea to kind of pre-make this part. So I'm going to just include IOStream, and I'm also going to, I know that a lot of people like to using namespace std, but I don't like doing that because it imports the entire namespace. A better practice is to using std cout and using std endl. Just import the things you're going to need, and we know we're going to need a main, so let's put one in, and let's do hello world endl, and I'll come over here. Notice when I ran Emacs, I put the ampersand so it's in the background so I can work from my shell. I actually wouldn't really work from my shell. I would do this all from within Emacs, but since we haven't covered it in class, I'm not going to do it right now. I would actually now add this to git add main.cpp and git commit. Added main.cpp. Yeah, nothing there. But again, if you're not using git, don't worry about it. So let's actually look at the lab. This is something that I would have ahead of time because I know I'm going to need this regardless. So this lab involves making routines, making code to write rectangle, triangles, or 2 types of triangles, and a trapezoid and a circle. And so here are little images of these, and the actual assignment is down here. So before I would even start this in the lab, I would read this over, and we'd read here and we'd talk about for each part you should input all the parameters. I'm not going to do that here, and I'm not going to check for legality of input here because that's not the point of this video. But I'm going to look over these shapes, and all of these I have to draw, and these are going to require, well, let's see, this could be any height or width, this can be any height, so it's going to have some loops to go through to print things, and it looks like each line is going to have to be printed independently. Rectangle looks a little tricky, so I may not want to start with that. Circle is certainly kind of tricky. The end result would look something kind of like that. But triangle doesn't look so bad, because triangle looks like I have line, 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 line. I've got 5 lines. And if this is a triangle of height 5, if I made a triangle of height 7, I'd have 7 lines. So it just sounds like I need something to go through a number of times, hence a loop. So I'm actually going to copy this, and let's come over to here, and we've covered we've covered functions. My students have covered functions, so we're going to do this in a function, and if you haven't covered it, then this code in here would still be in main, and I'm just going to paste this here, and this would be height equals 5, just so I have a little demo here. Just so that I have a little demo of what's going on. And so it looks to me that I'm going to have a height of 5. I want to do something 5 times, so let's put that in. So let's say int row equals 0, row is less than height, row plus plus, and whoops, and let's just do cout, just make a star, and an endl. Whoops, GCC, G++, and I'm not calling the routine yet, so let's call the routine. Try 1 on 5. And okay, we're doing something. And this is something I also highly recommend. This is the way I like developing. Every few lines of code I will compile, I will run, because if I just made 2 or 3 changes and I have an error, I can find that in those 2 or 3 lines. If I made 100 changes, it's going to be really hard to find the errors. So this is a good starting point, but I don't want to draw a star here. I want to draw the right number of stars on each line, and then I want to sorry about that. Then I want to see out the end line. So how do I do the right number of stars? Well, the right number of stars are going to be, the first one is going to be 1, the next one is going to be 2, the next one's going to be 3. So it sounds like that's going to be another loop. For, let's say, column equals 0, column is less than whatever row I'm on, column plus plus, and then I'm going to do C out of an individual star. So I got an error there. Notice that I found it quickly because I should have paid attention to the color highlighting. And there we have it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that, oh, it looks like we're not quite right there. So really, we're 1 off. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're putting 0 in this first line. So one thing we might do, this might make more sense for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I usually start at 0, so to be honest, I probably would have made this row plus 1. But because we're talking about the first row, second row, third row, you might think of it more starting on row 1. So just be careful with these types of situations, but it can go either way. You might even say something like that. If you're going to start this one, and this is of course nice. If this starts at 1, then probably this one should start at 1. But there we have the first one. So now which one to do next? Well, I don't want to handle rectangle quite yet. But trapezoid doesn't look too bad, so why don't we do trapezoid? So before we start, I'm just going to copy this over, rename this to be trap, and trap is going to get looking at this here, height and side, or side and height. So it's going to have int side, int height. And let's see how this is going to work. Now to start with, we still want to go height rows. Let's put a little example here. And this is going to be height equals, well, side equals 5, height equals 3. Whoops, did not mean to minimize that. And so let's think about this. So if we just run this again, let's change this to trap, side equals 5, height equals 3. And we're getting the right height, but we're not getting the right sides. And that's because here, we're not counting the right way. What we really want to do is, we want to go, let's think about this. In the last row, we want to go all the way up to the side length. Here it's 1 less, here it's 1 less. So if we work this out, sorry, got something in my eye there. What if we take the side minus the height? So if we take the side minus the height, if side is 5 and height is 3, this is going to take us down to 2. We're going to want to go 1 more than that in the first one, 2 more than that in the second, 3 more than that in the third. Well, that's going to be the row we're on. So let's give this a shot. And bang, there we have it. So we just had to map this out in our minds to figure out the relationship. Now at this point, before I continue, look at how both of these are pretty much the same. We've got an outer loop which counts a number of times, and an inner loop which prints out a row of characters. And it looks like we're going to be using that multiple times. We're going to be using that in the other triangle, and we're going to be using that in the rectangle. So what I would do at this point is I would probably do some refactoring. And it's factoring. It's the same as in algebra. If you have an algebraic equation like 2x plus 5x squared, let's say. I know this looks ugly here. We can factor out an x to make it 2 plus 5x. We can do the same thing with code in that we're doing this inner loop thing. We're doing it the same in both of these locations. So what I'm going to do is refactor this by making another routine called line. And let's give this a size, and let's give it a character. I should probably give it a string, so I'm using double quotes here, but I don't know if we've covered double quotes yet. So let's do this. And so this is going to basically be this, but we're going to go up to size, and we're going to output the character. So in here, we're going to say, let's do a line of row size with the single character. And here, we're going to do a line, and it's going to be side minus height plus row of the star. Let's make a 6, and let's do an end L. Put some space in here. I actually could have used the line routine for that as well. And do another one. And it's try 1. So again, finding the errors quickly. And both of our routines still work. We're in business, so that's all good. So now we can look at the next one. So why don't we look at the other triangle? Now the other triangle is the other part of it. It's the upper triangular part. So that's kind of interesting. I'm going to do this up here so I can easily scroll up and down to the existing triangle. So I've got void try 2 in height. And let's comment this out. So what this should look like, whoops, it should look something like that. And so at first this is kind of tricky if you think about it, but because it's like, well, we got to move these over. But if you actually really think about it, it's actually not that big of a deal. Because these guys here, let's put letters like an A in there for that. Instead of spaces, what if we have the letter A? We're like drawing here a line of A's, then a space, then a line of A's and a line of stars, and etc. And so if you think about this, let's get rid of those spaces. If we erase all these spaces, we'd be back up to this guy here. So this solution is actually crazy easy. For row equals 1, row is less than or equal to height, row plus plus. So all we need to do is let's draw a line of the appropriate number of spaces. So that's going to be the first one. Where are we? Let's see, the first one is going to be we want 4, the height is 5, and so the row is going to be 1. So it's going to be height minus row of, let's print out A's, and then a line of row stars, and then let's put out our end L. we have to declare, I'm going to remember it this time, our row to be int. And let's do try 2 of 6, and let's see how we do. And we're looking pretty good here. The only issue is we don't actually want those to be A's. It just makes testing easier. So let's come back up to here, and let's change these back to a space. And there we have it. So we're in pretty good shape for that one. I'm just moving this over because I have glare from the sunlight as I'm recording this. So now we're almost done. We have the rectangle and then the circle. And rectangle is actually pretty easy if you think about it, because the top and the bottom are always going to be filled in of width. So let's actually put in the basic testing for this. Let's do it over here. Void rectangle. And so we're going to need a line of width stars. And then in here, we're going to have the middle section. So if we just run this, and let's rect of, let's make the width 6 and the height 5. Forgot my new lines in there, so let's fix that. And for our middle section, well, each row, if you think about it, is a star, and then a bunch of spaces, and then another star. So that's just going to be cout. We could do just call line for that, but so those are the beginnings and the ends of each line. And in here we can just do a line of width -2 of space. So it's the width, but minus the 1 and minus the 2 of the edges. We save that. And what is my height? Oh, well, that's just doing 1 in the middle. I want to do this a bunch of times. So for row, int row equals 0. Let's keep it consistent with the way we've done the other ones. Row is less than height -2, less than or equal to height -2, row ++. And I think I just messed up some cutting and pasting here, so let's take a look at this. Let's fix this up. So we first draw the top, then the next line. Let's compile it, a.out, and there we have it. Our height here is 5. Wait, no, our height is 5 and our width is 6, so we are good. So now we're basically up to the last routine. And the last routine is a little bit of a shift in how you think about things, because the last routine is the circle, and we know from the question that the circle, we got the equation of the circle, x squared plus y squared equals r squared. But what we have to do here, what makes this trickier, is this is 0, 0 in the middle, or this is 0, 0 in this first quadrant. We have to test every point in this area to see, is this on the circle? So it's different than the other ones. In the other ones, we had to say things like, how many lines, how many stars. This is trickier because we're going to draw something here. The question is it going to be a star or a space? It's going to be a star if it's on the circumference of the circle. It's going to be a space otherwise. So here's how I ended up looking at this. So this is running a little long, so I'm going to try to go reasonably quickly on this. And so what we're going to do is we basically have to loop over an entire rectangle. We have to look over every square, go over every square on this, which is going to be one for each row, one for each column. But how many rows are we? Well, if this is going to be 0, 0, and this is the radius, then we're going to want to go from before the radius to after the radius. So what I'm going to start this with is, why don't we say, and I'll just declare my variables here for a change. Y is equal to negative 2 times the radius, while y is less than or equal to 2 times the radius, y equals y plus 1. So at this point, what we're going to do here is we're going to start, the first row is going to be of y being negative 2 times the radius. And then inside, we're going to do the x's. So we could do something similar for x equals negative 2 times the radius, x is less than 2 times the radius, x equals x plus 1. And so now we'll do a test. So we can start with, if x squared plus y squared equals r squared, then what we can do is we can do our cout of the star. Otherwise, we can cout our space, and that's our inner loop, and our outer loop can just be our end L. And let's just put in circle, circle 5. So let's start with this. Problem. So notice that it's a problem, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, because we should be able to fix this pretty easily. Let's see what's happening. I'm going to pipe that through less. So these are all good. And I can see a number of problems here. One problem is x squared plus y squared, is that going to be exactly equal to r squared? That could certainly be an issue. So what I'm going to do instead is I need to do standard lib here. And that will let me, if you don't really need this, the standard lib, will just make the typing a little bit easier. Let me find the routine. Circle. So why don't we take the absolute value of x squared plus y squared, excuse me, scratching my nose again, and what we can do is we can subtract from that r squared, and let's say if that's less than or equal to 1, so if the difference is close, and we still have a problem here. I think I'm not incrementing something right. Let's see. Y equals negative 2 times r, while y is less than or equals to 2 times r. Ooh, that's a problem. Oh, much better. Okay. And let me go back to what I had before. Just to see about that. And that actually worked for this case. But if I try to do a different circle, like let's do 6 as a circle, that doesn't work so well. And again, it has to do with the accuracy. So let's go back to what we just had. So that was absolute value of x squared plus y squared minus r squared is less than or equal to 1. And that's a little bit better, and we can fiddle with this a little bit more in terms of, and this is still, I'm working with integers, you know, so well, actually we should be fine with this. Let's even try a couple other ones. Make that 8. That doesn't look so bad, and that's pretty much it. So at this point, the solution is, that's a solution to all of these. I cut a couple of corners. I didn't do text input, but I'm hoping that you find this helpful. For people in my class, what I'm going to do is I'll do a follow-up video on this in converting this to use a makefile, since that's what we've been talking about, and hope you guys find this useful. Okay, bye-bye.